everybody, and a very warm welcome to Paul Ricard in the south of France for the second event of the 2018 International GTOpen season, as you join us at the about to be home of the French Grand Prix, the 5.8 kilometre challenge set on the hills just outside Toulon. A technical challenge for the drivers, but one which always produces some great racing. Well, it's a warm welcome from Ben Evans as you join us on a now breezy and, as you can see, very cloudy afternoon here at Paul Ricard. We haven't got the torrential rain that marred free practice yesterday, but we do have a fairly strong possibility of the showers striking between now and the checkered flag. What we also can pretty much guarantee is that we should have a very, very entertaining race in prospect, albeit one where you hope the Drivex team will make sure that Marcello Hahn's door is firmly shut by the time we go racing. And the reason for that is that we had the top four cars well within a tenth of a second of each other in qualifying earlier on today. It was the Luzic Racing Ferrari of Michele Rugolo who took pole position by the slenderest of margins from Damiano Fioravanti in the Umbra Racing Lamborghini, with then the second Luzic Racing Ferraris Marco Ciocci in third on the grid, and then Rick Breukers in the first of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracans completing the second row. So over the next 70 minutes or so we should be in for some superb battling. There is the ARC Bratislava by VSR entry of Miro Konotka and Konstantin Skalko, a car that has finished on the AM podium in both of the races so far this year, because alongside the main fight for honours there are the three classes to consider. There is the Pro class, represented by the car that we see now of Fran Rueda and Andres Saravia, Teo Marti Motorsport BMW, the Pro-Am class, and then the Am class. It's actually a Pro-Am class car of Michele Rugolo in pole position. There is the RS Racing Ferrari of Andrea Montermini. Montermini, a multiple GTOpen champion of years gone by, and was on thrilling form alongside Daniele Diamato in his return to the championship in Estoril a couple of weeks ago. Now this car is potentially a dark horse for Pro-Am honours as the race unfolds, because in free practice yesterday it was the Mercedes that were looking very, very rapid, and that indeed was the quickest of the cars, the Mario Plasciuta and Thomas Jäger-Lechner Racing entry. But Valentin Pierberg and Thomas Locol in the SPS Automotive car should also fight through the field. Here's Giuseppe Cipriani in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan that he shares with Toby Sowry. Again, this is another car that should progress up through the order as the race unfolds. Joining the field this weekend is the brace of Rinaldi Racing Ferraris, the 33 car there, Steve Parrow, and also David Perel, who lines up in 7th place and was the second of the Pro-Am qualifiers in the car that he shares with Vadim Koge. So it's the 51 Luzic Racing Ferrari that scored victory in both races in Estoril, and that was Mikel Mack alongside Alessandro Pierguidi. Pierguidi elsewhere this weekend, and so Marco Ciocci stepping in to partner Mack. And third on the grid. The challenge for them, though, is going to be overhauling the success seconds that they'll have accumulated that will extend their pit stops, the mid-race pit stop, and so therefore Marco Ciocci will be hoping for the opportunity to stretch the field in the early stages of the race. Ciocci, of course, was involved in that absolutely thrilling race we had here 2 years ago, where it all came down to a very, very close final lap of the race. So Andrea Montermini about to move through to take up his 6th position on the grid, and he will be hoping to fight through from there, because he's not carrying any pit handicap time, whereas Marco Ciocci and Mikel Mack, for example, they've got 30 additional seconds in the pits. Fabrizio Crostani lines up in 8th place in second of the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracans. Crostani, the 2016 champion, alongside Miguel Ramos, the 2015 champion, and they are a very, very competitive proposition in the Pro-Am class. So Michelin chef France here this week. That's Christophe Baquier here this weekend as part of all the off-track activities in the paddock organised by GT Sport Championship promoters and Michelin and Bibendum also there fairly prominently on the grid. So plenty for the teams, drivers and fans to enjoy away from the on-track action as Marco Ciocci looks to try and pick his way through to the front of the grid. When the cars do get released, of course, it's going to be a 70-minute race. There is the mandatory pit stop that comes between the 28th and 42nd minute. And this is how it all unfolded in Estoril a few weeks ago, where the Luzic Racing Ferrari had to get its elbows out on the way into turn one. It was Tomas Lecole made a very fast start in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Andrea Montermini, Daniele Diamato and the RS Racing Ferrari provided a lot of the entertainment. Victory in the first race of the season going to Alessandro Pierguidi and Michael Mack ahead of Giovanni Venturini, last year's champion, alongside Jerome Merle in the Pirelli Racing Lamborghini Huracan. And in fact, that was the finishing order for the top two in both of the races in Estoril. So those two cars, as a result, carrying the bulk of the pit handicap. Michele Rugolo, of course, a driver who is well known to the International GTOpen, in particular a couple of years ago when he finished well up in the championship, partnering Passin Lathoras. The Ombra Racing Lamborghini Huracan of Damiano Fioravanti and Fernando Reis could be real dark horses for victory this afternoon, potentially a championship tilt. In the second race in Estoril, from the very, very back of the grid, they really did fight their way up through the pack. Marco Ciocci and Michael Mack. It's Mack who has got the box seat in the championship this stage of the year, but there's still a lot of racing to go. Then Rick Breukers in the first of the trio of Pirelli Racing Lamborghini Huracans. Breukers alongside Riccardo Agostini for the season. Now, Fran Rueda, who starts in fifth, potentially could have got a little bit more in qualifying in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. Watch for the progress of Rueda in this race. And the team also only did one flying run in qualifying, so their tyre position is potentially quite good for the remainder of the weekend. Andrea Montermini can always be relied upon to put in a charging performance, but he did have a spin in qualifying, pushing for pole. And there are just a few spots of rain starting to fall now around the circuit. Here is how the grid lines up in full then. Michele Rugolo and Damiano Fioravanti on the front row of the grid. Then Marco Ciocci and Rick Breukers on row 2. Row 3, Fran Rueda and Andrea Montermini. Row 4, intriguing, David Perel and Fabrizio Crostani, two of the very quickest in the Pro-Am class. Then Jerome Mull and Lorenzo Beirao de Viega, they will be able to compete from the 5th row. Nicolas Costa heads the Vincenzo Spirit Racing charge in 11th alongside Marcello Harm. Then Stefano Constantini in the Target Racing car alongside Valentin Pierberg, the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Raffaele Giammaria 15th alongside AM class pole sitter Alexandra Raquina. Antonio Coimbra, reigning AM champion, lines up in 17th ahead of Marcio Basso. Miro Konopka and Mario Plasciuta completing the top 20 with Steve Parrow and Andrei Lewandowski on row 11. Lewandowski, another driver who spun in qualifying. Giuseppe Cipriani completing the field. So the cars released on to the green flag formation lap. This, the third race of the GTOpen season. Will it be a new car on the claiming victory and making the visit to the top step of the podium? It's been the Luzic Racing 51 car that's won both of the races so far this year, but they have got an additional 30 seconds in the pits to contend with this afternoon. And that really does open the door wide for others to take a shot at victory, not least Damiano Fioravanti starting from second. For Michele Rugolo, he'll start from pole, he'll try and lead the way, and that will give Alex West the chance to challenge for an outright podium and also Pro-Am class victory as well. This Paul Ricard circuit is a real challenge for the drivers in terms of variety of technical sections, high-speed sections, some undulations as well, but also getting the setup right too, because it's got the fast and sweeping opening to the lap, then that tight section through turns 4, 5 and 6, then the long run down the Mistral straight where you want to be carrying really as little wing as possible, make the car as slippery as possible. The heavy braking zone and the opportunity into the chicane midway down the Mistral straight. And then once it's come out the chicane, the long run towards the Courbe de Seine, and then the technical final third of the lap as well. So at the front of the field, it is the Ferraris, Lamborghinis and the BMWs. Watch for the progress of the Mercedes during the second half of the race. Both Tom Onslow Cole and Thomas Jaeger should absolutely fly once they get behind the wheel. And those cars will also be potentially very well poised to challenge for pole position in tomorrow's race. So there's lots of quick drivers waiting in the wings to take over. There's also lots of drivers who will be keen to try and stretch the field during the early stages of the race. The pit window, of course, is 14 minutes long, between 28 and 42 minutes. So that is where the element of strategy does come into play a little bit as we ride in car with Marco Ciocci, and just a couple of spots of rain, but I think that's more psychological rain in that the drivers can see it on their windscreens but probably not feel it through their tyres. And it's actually a little bit brighter, certainly over the paddock area, than it was a few moments ago. Antonio Coimbra, the sporting new Mercedes. His main rival for the AM class, Alexandre Haquina, right ahead of him. The Luzic Racing team confer in the pits. The field starting to bunch up behind the pace car as they head through the final couple of turns on this formation lap. Then, as the lights change on the gantry, it's going to be the relatively short run towards the opening complex. Certainly going to be frantic, and it should be very entertaining. As they head through the final turn, looking to the gantry, waiting for those lights to change, and they'll be going racing for the third time this year in the International GTOpen. See the red lights there in the distance. As Rugolo bunches the field, it's going to be very tight as they get released, which they do now, and away we go. Brilliant start from Fran Rueda, who anticipated that perfectly. Also squeezing through in the background is a very fast starting Marcello Hahn, as it is Rugolo who leads the way from Rueda, and then Marco Ciocci and Damiano Fioravanti through the opening chicane. They're all through safely, more or less, as the Luzic Racing Ferrari leads the charge towards turns 4, 5 and 6. Andrea Montermini to the inside of David Brell, on contact, and he turns Rick Breukers around, and everybody else avoids Breukers, fortunately, as Montermini picked up damage in the RS Racing car. It's the second time this season that the 25 Imperiale Racing Lamborghini's been caught up in first lap instance, terminally so in the first race of the year in Estoril. Hopefully not now. So the field sprint down the first half of the Mistral straight. Rugolo leads, Rueda in pursuit. Then it's Ciocci in third, Fioravanti in fourth, Montermini in fifth, sixth David Perel, seventh Marcello Hahn, who's made a superb start to the race, and eighth Jerome Mull ahead of Raffaele Giammaria. And there is Rick Breukers just behind Valentin Pierberg, so he's running and seemingly without too many ill effects. As Rueda, carrying a lot of speed in the BMW, draws alongside and looks to go around the outside of Michele Rugolo as they turn through the Courbe de Seine for the first time, and he's pulled it off. That's a brilliant move from Rueda. Now, can he keep the car tight through turn 11 as they climb out of the second element of the double right-hander and up towards turn 12? Rugolo looks to fight back. There's no gap there to the inside. We're in car with Marco Ciocci, and Ciocci can see his teammate ahead of him, and then just ahead of his teammate, you can catch the odd glimpse of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. And but for a little bit of traffic, Fran Rueda would have been in contention for pole position, but look at that bank of rain rolling off the hills. Whether or not that's going to affect us here at the circuit remains to be seen, as they all accelerate out of the final turn, down the start and finish straight. Fran Rueda just clear of Michele Rugolo, then Marco Ciocci, Damiano Fioravanti in fourth, fifth for Andrea Montermini, sixth David Perel. Then a little bit of a gap back to Marcello Hahn, who's got the brace of Imperiale Lamborghini Huracans behind him. Then it's Fabrizio Crestani and Stefano Constantini, with Lorenzo Beirao de Viega in 12th in the second Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. And Perel in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari just bumps across the curbs a little bit. So does Jerome Moll, who's trying to fashion an opportunity to dart past Marcello Hahn in the Drivex Mercedes, as the leading group of cars already kick out of turn 7, sprint along the back straight. Rick Breukers trying to hustle his way past Valentin Pierberg as well. It's already Ryder picks his braking point, picks his turning point, navigates the chicane. Rugolo and Chiocci fly in formation. As does the group of cars behind them. That's Costa, who jinks to the inside of Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Really nice move that from Nicolas Costa. Saw a little bit of a gap to the inside and then decided to make sure it was a bit of a bigger gap and took the position in car with Marco Chiocci, trying to see if there's anything doing to make a move on Michele Rugolo. Exactly the same underway with Jerome Moll, who is bottled up here behind Marcello Hahn. For Moll, it's not so much track position at this stage of the race as more the relative pace of Marcello Hahn to the cars up the road, because Moll and partner Giovanni Venturini, they've got an additional 20 seconds or so in the pits to contend with, so they can't afford for front of the field to romp off into the distance too much. And already Jerome Moll makes the move on Marcello Hahn, but Hahn in the Mercedes is quick in a straight line. Also Fabrizio Crestani drawing alongside Raffaele Gianmaria as they head towards the opening complex now. How much does Hahn want this as they turn through? Moll, however, has got the track position, makes the move stick and will now try and ease clear if he possibly can. Lorenzo Beirao de Viega decisively shuffled by Nicolas Costa, as Fabrizio Crestani able to convert the move on Raffaele Gianmaria. Rick Breukers also trying to join into that group as well in the third of the Imperiale Lamborghini Huracans, having dispensed with Valentin Pierberg. Another look at the start then, and it was Fran Raider who just saw a gap, anticipated the change of the lights, and blasted past in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, settled in behind Michele Rugolo as they went through the opening sequence. In car for Antonio Coimbra. See just how busy it was. A little bit of a tag there from Valentin Pierberg on Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Now here's the move. Montermini just tagging Rick Breukers. Breukers having a lurid spin. Fortunately, it was wheel-to-wheel contact and not at too high a speed. So both cars able to continue without too much drama. Fabrizio Crestani also now past Marcello Hahn. The rest of the field queuing up to have a go as Costa and Beirao de Viega continue to scrap. They've now got Breukers right with them and Valentin Pierberg. It's the fight at the front of the field, and it's Rueda still from Chiocci, who is now up ahead of Michele Rugolo. So Marco Chiocci with additional 30 seconds to consider in the pits, trying to romp clear as David Perel looks to the inside of Andrea Montermini, the Rinaldi Racing driver, able to jink clear of the RS Racing entry. And Perel, who qualified second in the Pro-Am class, he is running second in the Pro-Am class, and now is off in pursuit, if he possibly can be, of Damiano Fioravanti in fourth position. So Montermini losing the position. Now here is the move from Marco Chiocci to the inside of Michele Rugolo. Rugolo not fighting that too hard as you'd anticipate. And there's the move from David Perel and Andrea Montermini, really nicely judged, able to stop the Ferrari just in time. So now we have got Marcello Hahn with Raffaele Gianmaria tucked up behind him. And then it's Stefano Constantini in the Target Racing car, a new entry for this weekend, with Lorenzo Beirao de Viega and the rest of them all lined up behind. And Berra de Viega looking for the move. In fact, on Stefano Constantini is able to slip past, just about catches the tail of the car as he turns through the chicane. And that immediately leaves Constantini vulnerable to a challenge from Rick Breukers. Breukers doing what he can to recover from that first lap spin. So plenty of chopping and changing through the field in these early stages, but what we should let you know is that this scrap is already 8 minutes into the race, taking place some 15 seconds adrift of race leader Fran Rueda. There's Andres Saravia, who will take over from Rueda at the mid-race point. Now, the big question with the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW is whether or not Rueda has gone out in a way that is going to sustain the life of the tyres through to the mid-race pit stop. Marco Ciocci trying to pursue Rueda, but last time around he gave away 0.2 of a second to the Spaniard. There in fourth place is Damiano Fioravanti. And Fioravanti was half a second adrift to Michele Rugolo last time round, so already in fourth place. He's 5 seconds back from the race leader. And this for Mika Maka, Marco Ciocci, is what they would have wanted to do, to stretch the field in the early stages. But if you look at the clouds in the background, rolling in off the hills, it looks like something you'd see on the Sisters of Mercy album cover rather than the weather you'd hope at this time of year in the south of France. Whether or not that's going to play a part in the race, we'll find out over the course of the next hour. For now, though, the cars making a magnificent sight as they stream down the Mistral Straight. In the AM class, it is Antonio Coimbra who leads that from Marcio Basso and Andre Lewandowski, as here is the queue behind Marcello Hahn. There's always 4 wide as they head towards the chicane. This is going to be quite the sort out, and if Marcello Hahn defends it, he'll have done extraordinarily well. And he does, all in contact with Lorenzo Berra de Viega. Berra has to take evasive action, so does Nicolai Costa, but they all more or less hustle their way through it. Berra de Viega emerges with the advantage over Marcello Hahn. He would argue he was through anyway, and the contact has just pushed him through. Others might take slightly different views. Now Valentin Pierberg runs a little bit wide. That is Rick Breukers, who's busy battling with. Breukers, meanwhile, has been demoted once more by Nicolai Costa. They're all up behind Stefano Constantini. Here is another look at it. Marcello Hahn and Lorenzo Berra de Viega, and Hahn certainly left the braking very late. Berra was about to turn in. They did have sidewall-to-sidewall contact. Berra kept turning across him. That could have got a little bit messier, as unfortunately into the pits is Andrea Montermini, and clearly he did pick up a little bit of damage with that first lap contact with Rick Breukers. So the RS Racing Ferrari gets waved back into the fray. Unfortunately, a chance of a podium, one would suggest, has possibly gone away for Montermini and Daniele Diamato for the time being. Meanwhile, David Perel, South African, is absolutely flying, and he's homing in very rapidly onto the tail of Damiano Fioravanti. Last time round, Perel was 7/10 quicker than Fioravanti. So at the front of the field, Rueda leads still. So we're 12 minutes into the race. From Marco Ciocci in second in the first of the Luzic Racing Ferraris. In third place is Michele Rugolo, who leads the Pro-Am class in the second Luzic Racing entry. Fourth is the Ombra Racing Lamborghini of Damiano Fioravanti. And then fifth, the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari of David Perel, who's second in the Pro-Am class. Sixth is Jerome Mull in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan, head of the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini of Fabrizio Crostani, who completes the Pro-Am podium. Eighth, Raffaele Gianmaria. Ninth, Lorenzo Berra de Viega, and 10th is Marcello Hahn. Still a long way to go, and still over 15 minutes until the pit window opens. For Fran Rueda, Marco Ciocci, Michele Rugolo, they are all circulating in the mid 2 minute 3 second bracket. As Inspection is ongoing on the offending wheel from Andrea Montermini's car. As Raider pounds through. That lap of 2 minutes 3.6. Marco Ciocci at 2 minutes 3.1. So Ciocci taking half a second out of Fran Rueda last time around. As David Perel taking even more out of Damiano Fioravanti. And now Perel is right with Fioravanti. Now this could be an entertaining scrap. Fioravanti, who has made the step into GT racing after single-seater career. David Perel, who has had considerable success in Blancpain competition, darts to the inside of Fioravanti, and Damiano Fioravanti doesn't fight that too much. So David Perel up into fourth. Now part of that is that Fioravanti runs in the pro class. He's got Fernando Reis waiting to take over from him mid-race. David Perel will hand over to Vadim Koge, so they are tilting for a Pro-Am podium. As Rugolo tries to get ever closer to Ciocci, who in turn tries to get ever closer to Fran Rueda. And the gap from Rueda to Ciocci extends a little bit, just to 1.9 seconds. Here's another look at the move from Perel on Fioravanti. Gap to the inside. Damiano Fioravanti recognises there's a lot of racing to go. Doesn't fight too hard as the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari David Perel darts off up the road. Now, more battling. Stefano Constantini, the black target car, has got the black, yellow and blue Vicenza Spirit Racing car just behind him. And looking to the inside is Rick Breukers, who sees a gap to the inside Nicolai Costa into turn 11. And Breukers darts past as Costa tries to retaliate. It just opens the door to Valentin Pierberg, and this a really impressive performance thus far from Valentin Pierberg. Like Constantini running in the Pro-Am class. So he and Tom Onslow-Cole could well be in contention for Pro-Am podium honours a little bit later on in the race. I think their only concern will be as they tussle behind Marcello Hahn, just how far up the road Rugolo, Perel, Cristani and Giammaria have gone. Another look at that move from Breukers, kept it tight through the Cours d'Essine. Saw a gap to the inside. And Marcello Hahn then consults his mirrors, because every time he looks there's this queue of Lamborghini Huracans all looking to try and push their way past. And then they will get to Valentin Pierberg in the not entirely dissimilar SPS Automotive Mercedes. Queuing up into turn 5, as it's now the turn of Rick Breukers to apply a little bit of pressure to Stefano Constantini. And Constantini might be under pressure here from Breukers as they head towards the chicane, midway down the Mistral Straight. There is reigning champion Giovanni Venturini. Jerome Mull, from whom he'll take over, is currently running 6th, but does have quite a few additional seconds in the pits. And it's Constantini who takes the trip across the escape road at the chicane, and Stefano Constantini is going to have to back right out of that at a judicious moment as Marcello flashes his headlights at Stefano Constantini. I think Constantini will be well aware, it's just he doesn't want to do it on the Mistral Straight, because backing out throttle there will just completely cost his momentum. So instead he concedes the place to Marcello Hahn into turn 11. Breukers now immediately back up with Constantini. Costa and Pierberg part of this scrap as well, and Nicolai Costa almost seeing a gap to the inside of Rick Breukers in the bright green Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan as they turn through turn 12. So we're almost 20 minutes of the way through this race, and this battle has not settled down at all. At the front of the field, Fran Rueda leads the way by 2 seconds from Marco Ciocci. Michele Rugolo 1.8 seconds back from there. David Perel then in 4th, some 6.7 seconds off the lead, with Damiano Fioravanti in 5th. A couple of seconds back, almost 9 seconds rather adrift. And then Jerome Mull in 6th, and Null's deficit to the race leader, 13.5 seconds. This scrap that we're enjoying, headed by Marcello Hahn, already 28 seconds back from the race leader, Fran Rueda. So particular for Riccardo Agostini when he takes over from Rick Broikers. That's going to be a fairly big ask to climb on up through the field. So word coming down that Stefano Constantini must give back position. Now, we gave it back to Marcello Hahn. I'm assuming there is a suggestion here that Constantini may have been on the cusp of being passed as well by Rick Broikers, and needs to give that position to Broikers as well. See whether or not that proves to be the case. As this train of cars pounds towards the Courbe du Cygne. Constantini is going to give the ground. This is where it's going to be, but he clearly thinks better of it. And it's a really difficult one because, as aggrieved as he may feel about needing to give that position to Rick Broikers, to defy race control possibly suggests getting yourself into a whole heap of trouble a little bit later on. Nonetheless, Broikers, one would suggest, feels he's got a little bit of a quicker car than Constantini. Also flashes his headlights, possibly has got the nod over the radio. Stefano Constantini's got to give him the place. At the moment, nothing doing there as we approach the 20-minute mark. All fairly stable up the road ahead of this group. And Marcello Hahn, after coming under a lot of pressure a couple of laps ago, just seems to have latched into a rhythm, and Constantini arguably is a little bit more bothered with what's going on behind him than what's going on in front of him. And as Hahn has just elevated the pace, it has allowed them to just begin to ease away from Valentin Pierberg. So they swing out of turn 6 and then kick on to the Mistral Straight, already approaching the Courbe du Cygne. Here's the leading trio. Teo Marti Motorsport BMW of Fran Rueda, ahead of Marco Ciocci, and Ciocci has that additional 30 seconds in the pits as he hands over to Mikel Mack. And currently that would see Mack emerging something like 12th place. In fact, it would see him emerging into the middle of this group. So they'll try and continue to ease at the front of the pack. Michele Rugolo leading the Pro-Am class by 2.8 seconds over David Perel, then in 3rd overall. And Constantini certainly not showing any inclination to give back the place to Rick Broikers as Marcello Hahn runs wide through the Courbe du Cygne, loses 2 positions. Constantini and Broikers. Nicola Costa may also fancy his chances, trying to ease ahead of the Drivex Mercedes. Application of the right foot from Marcello Hahn just about keeps him ahead of Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan through the final sector of this, the 10th lap of the race. And Costa now looks to try and get the run on Hahn as they accelerate past the pits. And from one angle it appeared as if Costa might have got the overlap, but the Mercedes punches a hole through the air and just gets its nose in front of Nicola Costa through the opening chicane, but Costa might fancy his chances. Only a matter of time he would be thinking before he can force an error from Marcello Hahn. And Hahn just kicks the tail of the car out as they head through turn 4. Costa to the gap at turn 5, contact, and again sidewall to sidewall into Marcello Hahn, and Costa makes the move stick. Doesn't appear as if either of them's picked up too much damage, but Costa saw the opportunity, he had to go for it. Here's another look at it then. Wasn't a massive chance, but Costa was determined to fill that space, and thereafter as Marcello Hahn attempts to move across and shut the door, there's absolutely nothing he can do because Nicola Costa was already there. Meanwhile, the scrap ongoing now between Hahn and Valentin Pierberg. And these are two cars that may well feature in the Pro-Am podium battles later on in the race. In the AM class, still Antonio Coimbra, who leads from Marcio Basso and Andrei Lewandowski. And Coimbra 15th overall at the moment. 5 minutes until the pit window opens. Fran Rueda leads by just 1.7 seconds now. 1.2 seconds, in fact, over Marco Ciocci, because Ciocci's just set the fastest lap of the race. The 2 minutes 2.7. We're still following the battle for 10th between Stefano Constantini and Rick Breukers. And this fight now 32 seconds back from the race leader. Fran Rueda, who came very close to claiming the championship overall last year, alongside Victor Bouveng. And is now in good, well poised to potentially take his first victory of the season. Had 2 wins last year, the 21-year-old Spaniard. And the Teo Marti Motorsport team will be able to inform him that once the pit cycle has worked itself through, Ciocci is going to be a little bit adrift, or rather, Michael Mack, who will take over from Ciocci, will be a little bit adrift when Andres Saravia emerges from the pits. So Fran Rueda just needs to keep doing what he's doing, doesn't need to get unduly flustered by the attentions of Marco Ciocci behind. It's not at all that Rueda's pace has dropped off, far from it. It's more that Ciocci's just been able to find an extra few tenths of a second as the car gets a little bit lighter towards the end of this stint. So I guess there's a question mark now about, I think we'd expect to see Michele Rugolo fourth, stay out relatively deep into the pit window, but Ciocci, elite hand over to Michael Mack, likewise Damian to Fernando Reis. So across the line into the 13th lap of the race, and Ciocci now just half a second adrift of Fran Rueda. And this is really a distraction the Teo Marti Motorsport driver could do without. And he's now caught. Does he allow Ciocci through, lest they slow themselves down, fighting and unnecessarily risk the cars, or does he just try and keep the Italian behind him and therefore give Andres Saravia the best possible advantage when he takes over? Meanwhile, David Perel is getting onto terms with Michele Rugolo. Perel absolutely flying in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, and is now just 0.8 of a second or so adrift of Rugolo. So 45 minutes or just under to run here in Paul Ricard, the third race of the International GTOpen season. This is the fight for the lead between Fran Rueda and Marco Ciocci. Start with Ciocci as he closes up onto Fran Rueda, and this is where, by this stage of the stint, that the BMW might just be beginning to suffer a little bit, and certainly Ciocci through these mid-speed technical corners seems to be able to really eat away at Rueda's advantage. Now is Ciocci going to be close enough to challenge, maybe into the final turn even? He considers lining up the move. Is there a gap that's going to appear? No, there isn't. And even if there was, Ciocci doesn't want to take the risk as they accelerate then through to start the 14th lap of the race. Background, Michele Rugolo, David Perel closing up onto each other, and Ciocci though, quickest car just about in the field on that last lap, is now all over the tail of Fran Rueda. Rueda though will fancy that he's probably got enough in hand to keep Ciocci at bay if he can just focus on defending the corners that he needs to, and also getting the exit speeds onto the straights that he needs to. And it's now, this section of the track is absolutely critical for him, keeping that balance through turn 6, and then the slingshot out of 7 on to the Mistral straight. And Ciocci has got a long way to come back from. He's going to challenge into the chicane. And he's not going to be near enough, is he? Because even though the camera angle foreshortens, you can still sense that Chiocci's 2 or 3 car lengths too far back. David Perel now right with Michele Rugolo. This is the fight for the Pro-Am lead, fight for 3rd place overall. It's been a storming performance from Perel as the pit window is open. So we'll see if anybody peels in at the end of this lap. Certainly a little bit lower down the order, the likes of Valentin Pierberg and Mario Plasciuta we might see ducking in fairly early on. But amongst this leading duo, whether or not Chiocci will want to get the pit stop out of the way and try and release Mikael Mack into some clear air, or take another couple of laps to overhaul Fran Rueda, we'll find out momentarily, because they're coming up to the final turn now. Rueda picks his way through the right-hander. So does Chiocci, and then, in fact, they both head towards the pit. So race leader Fran Rueda is in, turned over to Andres Saravia. Marco Chiocci to pass over to Mikael Mack, and that elevates Michele Rugolo to the lead of the race. The Luzic Ferrari team get to work. Chiocci immediately hops out as Perel is through and has taken lead of the race away from Michele Rugolo. So David Perel leading in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. 2nd to Rugolo, 3rd to Damiano Fioravanti. Andres Saravia taking over from Fran Rueda. And suddenly it's all change at the front of the field. Lorenzo Berardi Viega also in to hand over to Juan Cruz Alvarez. And that pit stop well underway. A couple of others in. Marcello Hahn will pass over the direct stages to Alan Hellmeister, and also Valentin Pierberg, Tom Onslow-Cole. Riccardo Agostini takes over from Rick Breukers. Frustrating stint that for Breukers. Onslow-Cole slips into the Mercedes. This is a chance for Onslow-Cole, maybe, to carve up through the field. He's going to have for the best part of 40 minutes to play with. Now, Perel and Rugolo, we'd expect, will stay out pretty deep in this pit window as the RS Racing Ferrari back in. Montermini, Daniele Diamato, as arguably Perel and Rugolo have got the legs on the bronze-rated drugs. Will take over from them. Martin Conrad and Alexandra Aquina switch places in the HTP Motorsport MS Racing car. Konstantin Skalko takes over from Miro Konopka. Also, Thomas Jaeger is in for Mario Plasciuta. Of those that have pitted, not unsurprisingly, Andres Saravia is at the fore of that queue, quite where Mikael Mack is going to be, relatively speaking. We'll find out. He's already lost out to Riccardo Agostini. Whether or not he's lost out to Thomas Jaeger and Martin Conrad, we'll find out. So here is David Perel, the race leader, still with Michele Rugolo in close pursuit. And this is always a difficult part of the race, because essentially you're racing cars that you can't quite see. For Perel and Rugolo, they are looking to give Vadim Koge and Alexander West, respectively, as big a buffer as they possibly can over their Pro-Am class rivals. 3rd in the Pro-Am class, still Fabrizio Crostani, ahead of Raffaele Gianmaria as Stefano Constantini and Alberto Di Folco switch places in the Target Racing Lamborghini Huracan. So actually, once the pit stops are adjusted, it would appear as if Mikael Mack is 2nd of those that have pitted, and has emerged ahead of both Juan Cruz Alvarez and Riccardo Agostini. So we'll see how that unfolds. Meanwhile, the Druix Mercedes has just emerged from the pits, and that's Alan Hellmeister, who's essentially racing these two cars potentially for a Pro-Am podium once we get towards that stage of the race. And then 9 seconds up the road ahead of them is the SPS Automotive Mercedes, Tom Onslow-Cole, as Toby Sowery hops into the Lazarus Lamborghini. And also all change for Steve Parrow and Christian Hook in the other Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. David Perel about to reel off his 16th lap of the race. He and Michele Rugolo, last time around, were in the high 2:03, low 2:04 second bracket. Damiano Fioravanti in third, still pursuing them. Fioravanti, the Ombre Racing Ferrari, yet to duck towards the pits. That lap, a slight elevation. The leading trio, all in the 2:03 second bracket. Meanwhile, Jerome Mull in hand over to Giovanni Venturini. And again, they have got a 20-second pit handicap as a result of those 2 second place finishes in Estoril. So I suspect this race is going to be as much about the points haul as anything for the Imperiale Racing pair. Now David Pirelli's just a little bit bottled up here behind the Drivex Mercedes, as perhaps would be expected, with Alan Hellmeister emerging on fresh Michelin rubber. Pirelli in the last stages of what has been a 35-minute plus stint. Now the pit window closes with 28 minutes left on the clock, so they've got another 7 or 8 minutes if they want it, which is going to work out at probably another 4 or 5 laps, just allowing for any margin of error to work through. Meanwhile, Mikael Mack is on his first post-pit stop flying lap. Andres Saravia, his first post-pit stop flying lap was a 2:03.3, so actually a little bit quicker than the cars currently fighting for the lead of the race. So although Pirelli and Rugolo currently running first and second, relative to Andres Saravia, they're actually giving away a little bit of time, as Juan Cruz Alvarez has just posted the best lap of the race, a 2:02.7. And he is glued to the rear wing pretty much of Mikael Mack. So some great battles already beginning to form up throughout the field as David Perel darts to the pit lane. He'll hand over to Vadim Koge. It elevates Michele Rugolo to the lead of the race. Damiano Fioravanti continuing on his way. Moves up into second place as a result. As the Rinaldi Racing crew get to work. It's a really impressive drive from Perel. Also in is Fabrizio Cristani. That will be Miguel Ramos will take over in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. So now Michele Rugolo released into some clear air. Driver who took pole position, trying to give Alex West as big a buffer as possible when West takes over. Chance to challenge for Pro-Am class honours, and this is the fascinating thing to watch for, is the different class battles throughout the field. Meanwhile, Andres Saravia is pretty much exactly 30 seconds clear of Mikael Mack. So Mack is going to have to, if he wants to challenge for victory, take a second a minute out of Andres Saravia, and that feels like it is going to be a pretty big ask. Rugolo still enjoying the clear air, trying to chase down Alan Hellmeister in the Drivex Mercedes. "33 minutes left on the clock. This is the third race of the International GTOpen season. Midway through the pit cycle, of those that have pitted, it's Andres Saravia who is the foremost. And he's currently 6th overall. Vadim Koge and Miguel Ramos have both emerged from the pits ahead of Mikael Mack and Juan Cruz Alvarez on the road. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how the latter stages of the race begin to play out here. Now here is Saravia. So Andres Saravia, Fran Rueda, chasing their first win of the season in the championship. And this is a track that always seems to suit the BMW well. And Saravia is going to have enough of a buffer here that he can, if he really wanted to, I think, afford to drive within himself and not overexert the tyres. Still a lot of racing to go, though. The best part of 15, 16 laps. Fortunately, the threat of rain seems to have blown through as Kang Ling about to take over from Nicolas Costa. Vincenzo Sospiri team getting to work. Again, they don't have a handicap to worry about as Thomas Jaeger sets the fastest lap of the race in the Lecton Racing Mercedes. Jaeger is, those that have pitted, 4th in the Pro-Am class, 5th in the Pro-Am class as well, so he's going to have to work it out to get onto the Pro-Am podium. But there's going to be a very good battle in the Pro-Am class between Miguel Ramos, Alberto Di Folco and Tom Onslow Cole. Those cars all closing up onto each other. As Juan Cruz Alvarez, there is Mikel Mack up the road ahead of him, and then you just caught the glimpse of Vadim Koge as well, whom they're looking to chase down. So we've only got now 4 cars to pit in there: Michele Rugolo, Damiano Fioravanti, Raffaele Giammaria and Antonio Coimbra. And here is Damiano Fioravanti, who's got Thomas Jaeger closing onto his tail. Jaeger, who was quickest in free practice yesterday in the Lecton Racing Mercedes, as now Fioravanti peels into the Ombra Racing pits. Fernando Reis to take over from him. Now I wonder what sort of exam question Fernando Reis is going to be set relative to Andres Saravia when the Ombra Racing Ferrari, or Ombra Racing Lamborghini rather, used to be a Ferrari for the team, re-entering the championship this year with the Lamborghini, emerges into the fray. No success seconds for them to consider. Fioravanti exits the cockpit, removes his seat insert. It's Thomas Jaeger continues to press on. Also into the pit lane is Raffaele Giammaria, that's Jiatong Liang, who will take over. It's Michele Rugolo staying out until the very last knockings of the pit window. He's going to have to come in at the end of this lap, but Rugolo has just set his best lap of the race. It's also in Antonio Coimbra to swap over to Luis Silva, AM class front runners. Looking for the Sport and U lollipop. There it is, waved into position just as Fernando Reis emerges from the pit lane. So here comes Reis. Where is Andres Saravia? Suspect he's been and gone. Or has he? We'll find out. As meanwhile, Vadim Koge has been caught by Mikel Mack, as Mack is right with the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. Now this should be relatively easy, one would suggest, for Mikel Mack, trying to dart to the inside. He's just got to be careful, make sure that Koge's seen him, which he has. So Mikel Mack goes through, that gains the position, moves him up to something like 6th overall. As Michele Rugolo is in, Alex West will take over. That car likely to emerge in the lead of the Pro-Am class. So, of the race leaders, it's Andres Saravia who effectively leads the way, and he is 14 seconds clear of Fernando Reis, who in turn is 16 seconds clear of Mikel Mack. Juan Cruz Alvarez, the next driver to overhaul Vadim Koge. That's the battle we're watching at the moment. So this could be a good day for the Teo Martin Motorsport squad. There's another look at the move from Mikel Mack to the inside of Vadim Koge. That's how it felt for Mack. Plenty of space to the inside. Darts through to the Luzic Racing Ferrari, even with the 30 seconds in the pits. Oh, and a little bit of a tag there between Juan Cruz Alvarez and Vadim Koge. Juan Cruz Alvarez able to slip past. Now, has he picked up any damage there? Because Koge looking to fight back to the inside of the BMW. Or maybe that was just Juan Cruz Alvarez giving the position back as there'd been a little bit of contact, wanting to make absolutely sure that there was going to be no retaliation or comeback. Vadim Koge now leaves the door open, and Juan Cruz Alvarez darts through, takes the place. 27 minutes to go. Already Mikael Mack some way up the road. So Andres Saravia is the race leader. Now that all the pit stops have been completed, where does Alex West filter into the scheme of things? He is in second place. Another look at it. And yep, that was a little bit of a tag, wasn't it, from Juan Cruz Alvarez that bumped Koge out wide. Really smart driving from the Argentine, therefore, to give the place back. Ilya Vlotter watching Matteo Martin Motorsport pit wall. So here's the race leader, Saravia. He leads Alex West by 11.4 seconds. West leads the Pro-Am class. Fernando Reis then is third on the road. He's 3.8 seconds back from West. In fourth is Mikael Mack, who's a further 15 seconds back from Reis. Fifth, Juan Cruz Alvarez. Sixth, second in the Pro-Am class, Vadim Koge. Seventh is Giovanni Venturini. Eighth and third of the Pro-Am class is Jiatong Liang. And he has got Miguel Ramos right behind him in ninth, with Tom Onslow-Cole completing the top 10. Luis Silva leads the AM class from Martin Conrad and Konstantin Skalko. Just under 26 minutes to go, and this is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how the remainder of this race unfolds, because for now, Andres Saravia has got a relatively comfortable advantage, and it really comes down to whether or not Fernando Reis and Mikael Mack have got some fairly phenomenal tricks up their sleeve. This lap from Saravia was a 2 minutes 3.2. Meanwhile, this is Jiatong Liang with Miguel Ramos right behind him, and then Tom Onslow-Cole. So this is for third place in the Pro-Am class, but they are very, very rapidly. In second place, in fact, in the Pro-Am class, they've already overhauled Vadim Koge, who's been shuffled to the back of this pack. And so Jiatong Liang is going to have his work cut out now with both Onslow-Cole and Ramos, two very experienced competitors in the Pro-Am class, right onto his tail. There's Vadim Koge, who loses out to Kang Ling and Alberto Di Folco. So where is the opportunity in that scrap for seventh place? The two Lamborghinis, the Parallel Racing and Daiko Lazarus versions of the car, will both be very, very similar. Meanwhile, here is Fernando Reis. This is for second place. He's right up with Alex West. Now, can't imagine that West is going to overly fight this if he feels that Fernando Reis is that bit quicker, because West is really in the box seat here for the Pro-Am class victory. That's not to say that West isn't going to make Fernando Reis work for it, because West has already won races outright in this championship in the past. But Fernando Reis darts to the inside, turning through the Courbe du Cygne, goes up into second place. So Fernando Reis now has got a deficit of about 16 seconds to Andres Saravia. The question is whether or not he's going to be able to reel that down in 23 minutes. It's a very, very big ask, one would suggest, for the Ombre Racing Lamborghini Huracan. Meanwhile, here's Tom Onslow-Cole passing both Jiatong Liang and Miguel Ramos. And Ramos also trying to overtake Liang. So Tom Onslow-Cole goes second in the Pro-Am class. And Onslow-Cole's deficit to West is pretty huge, actually. 35 seconds. That feels like it's fairly unlikely. We've got car 6, that's Kang Ling, 3 seconds, added to his race time. And Alan Hillmeister 5 seconds added to his race time, both for contact. Meanwhile, Mikael Mack is absolutely flying. Mack, a second quicker than Andres Saravia on that last lap. Exactly. He's 29 seconds back from Saravia, 23 minutes to play. And really, he needs to be about 2 seconds a lap quicker than the BMW. That is, as long as Saravia can sustain a pace in the mid-2 minute 3 bracket, should be okay. So Fernando Reis accelerating onto the Mistral straight. Once more, the clouds starting to move in. Here's another look at the pass from Fernando Reis to the inside of Alex West. Bold move from West. Bold move from Reis, rather. Now West in the Pro-Am class is pretty well set as it's all sorting out behind as Kang Ling to the inside of Jiatong Liang. Also, we've got Alberto Di Folco as part of that scrap as well. And launching into the fray, Riccardo Agostini, who elbows aside the target racing Lamborghini Huracan, possibly at the cost of a headlight. Here is another look of the move from Kang Ling to the inside of Jiatong Liang. Ling ran a little bit wide. Here comes Riccardo Agostini, thump inside of Alberto Di Folco, and it did indeed cost him a headlight. And also a trip with immediate effect to race control from his team manager. So the Pro-Am class is currently West from Onslow Cole and then Miguel Ramos. And Ramos trying to put a little bit of daylight between himself and Jiatong Liang. Thomas Jaeger, of course, the other driver, is very rapidly trying to home in onto this battle. Jiatong Liang gives the charging Riccardo Agostini plenty of space before moving across to try and cover off from Alberto Di Folco. Saravia's lead over Fernando Reis, in fact, has grown. That last lap from Reis was a 2 minutes 4.2. Saravia, a slight elevation of pace, a 2 minutes 3.1. So instead for Fernando Reis, the concern might be the ongoing progress of Mikkel Mack, as Liang and Alberto Di Folco still run side by side. Di Folco a little bit neater on the exit of the corner. Meanwhile, spin for Christian Hook. First time that 33 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari has rotated this afternoon, rather the course of the day, to the spinning qualifying. So 20 minutes to run, and the front of the field, Andres Saravia, a comfortable advantage over Fernando Reis, but Alex West in third. He's being caught by Mikkel Mack, and Mack is seeing what he can do about reeling in Fernando Reis for that second position. While the clouds continuing to gather once more over the circuit. Headlights ablaze from Kang Ling as he pursues Miguel Ramos. Ramos in the Daika Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan, currently third in the Pro-Am class, so likely to ratchet up some more points. And at the back of that train, just caught a glimpse of Thomas Jaeger homing into view now for Miguel Ramos. That's going to be his worry in the Pro-Am class battle, is whether or not Thomas Jaeger can race his way onto the rostrum, because Jaeger is within sight, and certainly in terms of lap times is well within touching distance of the cars in front. So that last lap from Saravia and Reis was a 0.2 second gain for Fernando Reis over Andres Saravia. No concern particularly there, as Jiatong Liang has got Trivex Mercedes Van Helmeister right behind him, and also trying to see a chink of daylight to drive his car through is Thomas Jaeger. Jaeger possessing the fastest lap of the race, certainly be a driver in contention for pole position outright tomorrow. As he looks for the undercut on the Trivex car, come out of the final turn. Konstantin Kalko just overcooking it in the RC Bratislava Lamborghini Huracan, and Kalko was in an AM class podium position. The AM class currently led by Martin Conrad from Thiago Marquez and Luis Silva, as Liang and Helmeister go side by side through the opening chicane. It's about to get potentially even closer than that, as Thomas Jaeger trying to dart past the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan. He manages to do so. So Jaeger gains the place. Next target is the Drivex Mercedes. Meanwhile, all relatively stable at the front of the field. As Kang Ling has moved ahead of Miguel Ramos. Alberto Di Folco trying to overhaul Riccardo Agostini. Now, Alberto Di Folco, also running in the Pro-Am class, might fancy trying to get onto terms with Miguel Ramos. The pace, meanwhile, of Tom Onslow Cole was a 2 minutes 2.999 last time around, as Mikael Mack moves clear of Alex West. So Mack goes third overall. West retains his Pro-Am class lead, but is now 20 seconds clear of Onslow Cole. And the rate of catch from Onslow Cole means that the SPS Automotive Mercedes might well get onto terms with Alex West between now and the checkered flag. So that's going to be worth watching for as well. For Mikael Mack, even with the overtaking, he still took a couple of tenths out of Fernando Reis, but really the top three in the race, it's fairly static in that Saravia is 18 seconds clear of Fernando Reis. Reis in turn 11 seconds clear of Mikael Mack. And then Alex West in fourth, leads the Pro-Am class. Juan Cruz Alvarez is fifth. Giovanni Venturini is sixth. And then Tom Onslow Cole seventh, second in the Pro-Am class. Kang Lin eighth. Miguel Ramos ninth, third in the Pro-Am class, with Riccardo Agostini currently completing the top 10. That last lap from West was a 2 minutes 7.8, and that played from Onslow Cole the 2 minutes 3.5. So Onslow Cole a bit faster, as Fran Rueda would rather like the next 15 minutes or so to tick by fairly quickly, because there's nothing more he can do. He made the lightning getaway. It's Andres Saravia who is controlling events at the front of the field, having taken over from Rueda, and Saravia has been able to drive with a really impressive level of consistency. His last lap was in the low 2 minute 3 second bracket, quicker than both Fernando Reis and Mikael Mack in pursuit. And Saravia accelerates out of the final turn, about to reel off his 26th lap of the race. Another lap in the low 2 minute 3 second bracket for Andres Saravia. As long as he keeps it there or thereabouts, he's not going to be chased down by those around him. It's the Guatemalan driver. He's been on the podium before in the International GT Open, the wheel of a Trivex Audi going back a couple of years. Meanwhile, here's the battle for the bottom of the top 10. Miguel Ramos being pursued by Riccardo Agostini and Alberto Di Folco. And Target Racing, a Mini Huracan, the black car with the silver roof, still looking very anxious, if it possibly can, to move clear. Likewise, Angelmeister still fending off Thomas Jaeger. And that's good news for Miguel Ramos, with Knight finishing third in the Pro-Am class. Alberto Di Folco still trying to overhaul Riccardo Agostini, exactly the same being the case for Thomas Jaeger on Angelmeister, who was just getting the windscreen wipers going. Now, is that a suggestion that we might be getting a tiny bit of precipitation beginning to fall? Unlikely, one would suggest, because everybody else is not looking to clear their windscreen. So Alberto Di Folco still trying to line up a manoeuvre on Riccardo Agostini. 13.5 minutes left on the clock. Out of turn 6, then the kick through turn 7 onto the back straight. This is the fight for 9th, 10th and 11th position. Meanwhile, Juan Cruz Alvarez has moved ahead of Alex West. I just wonder if West is carrying a little bit of a problem here, because the Blizzard Racing Ferrari is a little bit adrift of where we'd expect West to be in terms of pace. Certainly to be best part of 3, almost 4 seconds off the pace of the race leaders is not characteristic of the level of performance we normally see from Alex West. Just runs a little bit wide. Here was the move from Cruz Alvarez. And Tom Onslow Cole is now just 9 seconds adrift of West. Meanwhile, here's Fernando Reis in pursuit of Konstantin's Calco. And Calco in the ARC Bratislava car has been shuffled down to the tail of the field. All 23 starters still running. good that this race has not been at all attritional. And Fernando Reis also, as he's running behind Konstantin Kalko, it has really plummeted his pace somewhat. Last lap for Reis was a 2 minutes 5.6 versus 2 minutes 3.1 for Michael Mack. And Fernando Reis needs to try and clear this car fairly quickly because they're in the background. You see Michael Mack homing into view, so the fight for second and third isn't yet decided. And Reis unable to challenge Kalko on the way into the chicane. And Konstantin Kalko is determined to make a bit of a go of this. Maybe Fernando Reis will be able to get the slingshot along the Mistral straight. Both drivers headlights ablaze. And is Reis able to draw alongside Kalko as they turn into Corbettine? Yes, he is. And that's an important move from Fernando Reis because Michael Mack had closed to about 6.5 seconds adrift. A bit of a dab of the windscreen wipers there as well for Andres Saravia, and it is dark and cloudy. It doesn't look as if, even if it does rain, it's going to fall particularly heavily with 11 minutes remaining. But the team's just looking to count down the minutes at the moment, and Saravia, that lap time of 2 minutes 3.6, so still well within the mid 2 minute 3 second bracket for Saravia. It's now 21 seconds clear of Fernando Reis. Now the battle that is about to come together momentarily is that Alex West is about to be caught by Giovanni Venturini and Tom Onslow-Cole. So the Pro-Am class lead is potentially going to change in a couple of moments, as still Thomas Jaeger trying to overhaul Alan Helmeister. Meanwhile, Miguel Ramos being caught by Riccardo Agostini and Alberto Di Folco. However, should let you know that Riccardo Agostini has got a 5-second penalty now to his race time for that contact a few moments ago. Meanwhile, Thomas Jaeger draws alongside Alan Helmeister. This is going to be very, very tight as they head towards turn one. The two Mercedes running absolutely side by side. And Jaeger has to think better of it. Instead, he tries to force the Drivex car offline. Nothing doing, though. And so Jaeger remains in 13th position. And his nose just in front over the line. But Miguel Ramos ahead, who's third in the Pro-Am class, hasn't romped off into the distance. Meanwhile, there's been a change to lead the Pro-Am class. Tom Onslow-Cole now leads the Pro-Am class in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. So Onslow-Cole leads the way. We've got somebody ailing one of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracans. We'll try and pick up who that is in a moment, and I think it's Jiatong Liang. Into the chicane again. Jaeger pumping over the curves, trying every which way to force his way past. And here is that wheel-to-wheel moment. 16 Drivex cars beating the walls a couple of times this afternoon. From that angle, nothing between them. Meanwhile, Riccardo Agostini looking to apply a bit of pressure to Miguel Ramos. Now, Ramos wants to keep Agostini behind him if he possibly can, because then Alberto Di Folco might be poised to demote Ramos from the Pro-Am podium. Pro-Am class now led by Tom Onslow-Cole, second in class Alex West, third Miguel Ramos. Saravia, Reis and Mack still the top three in the race overall, though Michael Mack is getting ever closer to Fernando Reis. Took a second down to him last time around. And there is Jiatong Liang, who has come to a halt in possibly the most awkward of places. And Thomas Jaeger, lightning reflexes, because he was just loading up for a little bit of a look to the inside and had to change direction fairly rapidly. So across the line they go, into the 30th lap of the race. And that is, in fact, Giovanni Venturini, who's in trouble in the Imperiale Racing Huracan. So real problems for Imperiale Racing, because Jiatong Liang was in trouble last time around, and Venturini has ground to a halt. The reigning champion, twice runner-up in Estoril, was set for a good result this afternoon. And that's most unusual. See the car just stop like that, and where Venturini is positioned is far from ideal in terms of being able to effect a safe recovery. So this group of cars on the brakes into the chicane, back straight, as Alberto Di Folco still trying to overhaul Riccardo Agostini, who is in the sole healthy Imperial 8 Lamborghini Huracan at the moment, because Jiatong Liang is circulating in the 2-minute 11-second bracket. Giovanni Venturini, of course, at a halt. And this is a really difficult call here for race control, because ordinarily I think you'd be scrambling a safety car, but with 6 minutes to go, the safety car process would take us through to the checkered flag. Di Folco again considers lining up the manoeuvre. Same for Thomas Jaeger, who's just been unable to clear the Drivex Mercedes. He's not going to do so now because they're into that yellow flag zone through the final couple of corners on the lap. So they head towards turn 15. Venturini's car, I think, has been hauled clear. Yes, it has. He's in the process of being piloted back to the pits with a brave marshal on the quad bike. So that recovery completed. They're free to race then with the remaining 6 minutes or so. The green flag back out around the circuit. The AM class is still Martin Conrad from Thiago Marquez and now Giulio Borlenghi, who is up to third in the AM class, having overhauled Luis Silva. 5.5 minutes to run. Oh, and the rain really now coming down the far side of the circuit. Oh my goodness, with 5 minutes to go. And Andres Saravia, just at the wrong moment, a very, very heavy shower. And so now the question is, do you stick or twist? Do you try and nurse it round on slicks? Do you gamble on a pit stop, bolt on some wets, and see what that can do for you? So 5 minutes to run, and the safety car is deployed, so the safety car comes out. And that, I'd suggest, for Andres Saravia means that he's going to stay out there, because there's no chance of any benefit from bolting on wet tyres. I suggest that means almost certainly that we're going to finish the race behind the safety car. 4.5 minutes to go, and it's really just through that third sector on the lap where the rain's at its heaviest. So it's going to bunch the field up. Fernando Reis then is safely through in second place. Headlights ablaze for Michael Mack in third. And a couple of others are ducking into the pit lane to put wet tyres on, and that an interesting call. One of them being Christian Hook. So the Rinaldi Racing team, maybe Hook just feeling that purposes of safety, given that he's 22nd in the race overall, wet tyres for the last lap or so might not be such a bad idea. So Saravia continues on his way, yet to catch on to the train of the safety car. And the rain hammering down over at the Courbe du Sine. Absolutely the right call to bring out the safety car. And we've got Vadim Koge in a spot of bother. So Koge in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari has pulled off the road. Whether or not that was rotation aided, we'll find out, as treacherous conditions into turn 11. All the drivers completely backed off the throttle. And for Andres Saravia, he's just going to have one more lap to try and negotiate. But the track conditions, even if they were on wet tyres, suddenly becoming almost borderline impassable, one would suggest. As the rain thundering down, I thought we got away with it. But the rain shower almost materialising from nowhere. This is what it feels like in car with Michael Mack. And just listening to the engine note there, being so delicate with the throttle, Because of course, just because the safety car's out doesn't mean if you spin it that you're not going to lose those positions. But Saravia is going to come through the final corner anyway to start the last lap of the race. Because the sort of pace they're running behind the safety car, if indeed they ever catch it, is such that by the next time Andres Saravia comes round, the clock will have ticked to 0. So everybody fanning out, looking for a little bit of visibility, if nothing else. So we're into the final lap of the race regardless. Andres Saravia is going to, provided he's able to safely make it round, claim victory here in Paul Ricard in the most treacherous of circumstances late on. But that shouldn't diminish at all from the absolutely superb performance that Saravia and Fran Rueda have put in over the course of the afternoon. And there is the safety car, which is going to wave through a few of them, or not. Martin Conrad really doesn't fancy it, does he? But he squirts past. The same for Jiatong Liang, Juan Cruz Alvarez and Kang Ling. And then it is Saravia who'll take up position behind the safety car. So that's going to lock in the finishing order more or less. Slightly tiptoeing round behind the safety car, and just wonder how much heat that's going to take out of the Michelin tyre, because at least on the last lap for Andres Saravia, he circulated in a time of 2 minutes 52. For Mikael Mack, it was a 2 minutes 40, so obviously substantially slower than they have been going, but at the same time maybe quick enough to keep the heat into the slick tyre, at least to get a little bit of traction and purchase now behind the safety car. They're going to have to be extremely delicate in navigating around the track, so the clock is going to tick to 0. It's as close as Mikael Mack is going to get to Fernando Reis and race victory. And still a long way to go behind the safety car through to the checkered flag, and it's then going to be a long way back around the track to Parc Ferme for Andres Saravia. Not that it's going to matter too much for him, because he and Fran Rueda are going to be scoring their first victory of the 2018 campaign. So confirmation on the timing screen, the race is going to end under safety car conditions. I think we pretty much guarantee that's the case, given that the clock has ticked to 0, and they will just proceed round over the start and finish line, and that will be that. So a little bit anticlimactic, but absolutely the right call from race control to scramble the safety car, because it's just the safety, not only for the drivers out on track, for those trying to press on slick tyres, but also in the pit lane with teams scrambling to get wets ready and available. It would have led to a very crowded, congested pit lane. That's when you risk comings together and tyres being scattered. So absolutely the right call. And I think for Andres Saravia, probably a level of relief too, because as the race leader, it would have been really his determination. Did he risk going for the wets and the pit stop to try and press on with slicks? In the event that decision taken away from him. So Saravia it is who's going to take victory alongside Fran Rueda, Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti to second place, Mikael Mack and Marco Ciocci completing the podium. Thomas Locol and Valentin Pierberg looking to claim Pro-Am victory ahead of Alex West and Michele Rugolo, with Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crostani completing the Pro-Am podium. Then Martin Conrad and Alexander Quina victorious in the AM class from Thiago Marquez and Marcio Basso, with Giulio Borlenghi and Andrei Lewandowski completing the AM podium. Well, the shower seems to have stopped almost as soon as it came, but it has deposited a huge amount of water onto the circuit None of that, however, is of any concern for Andres Saravia, because he accelerates out of the final corner. The Teo Marti Motorsport team are on the pit wall as Saravia and Fran Rueda claim victory in the third race of the 2018 International GTOpen Championship. Second place going to Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti, with Mikel Mack and Marco Ciocci completing the podium. And somewhere in the murk as well is Tom Onslow Cole taking Pro-Am class victory. There he is for SPS Automotive alongside Valentin Pierberg and Martin Conrad, who didn't really fancy that extra lap. It's been released by the safety car, but he will come across the line to claim he and Alexander Raquina's first AM class victory of the season. So a very entertaining race once more from the International GT Open. Some intriguing results in terms of the championship, and also the rate that the rest of the weekend is going to unfold. Some storming drives up through the field, particularly Tom Onslow Cole. Some great pace from Thomas Jaeger, but for Fran Rueda and Andres Saravia, after that electrifying first lap from Fran Rueda, they have had the measure over the rest of the field and quite deservedly taking their first victory of the campaign. It's a result that is going to propel them well up into the championship standings too. So Saravia enjoying the moment, back to the pits. Here, meanwhile, is Martin Conrad, who is yet to take the checkered flag. So it's going to be a fairly long slowing down lap this for Andres Saravia, and Martin Conrad not taking any chances in these treacherous conditions. He's got a train of 4 cars still to come through and take the flag, which they need to do, because in that train of cars is the AM class podium. So Fran Rueda, Andres Saravia attempting to celebrate, and the weather forecast for tomorrow is potentially equally changeable. And looking ahead, there is every possibility that tomorrow afternoon's race, which will get underway at around about 2:15 local time, is also going to be similarly afflicted by showers. So far been the narrative of the weekend. Yesterday we had heavy rain during the second of the 3 practice sessions. Today, heavy rain late on in the race, with the safety car being scrambled just in time before it had an effect on the outcome of things. Well, Andres Saravia certainly having a fair chunk of time to savour his run back to Fart Ferme, and if nothing else, it's going to give the Teo Marti Motorsport team plenty of opportunity to assemble down in Parc Ferme to greet Saravia and to get the celebrations underway. The water pouring over the aerodynamic devices on the car. Amazing, really. It was a shower that lasted only about 3 minutes, but it has dumped a fair amount of standing water onto the circuit. The field progressing around their slowing down lap, except for Martin Conrad. Jiatong Liang and Thiago Marquez are still going to have another trip around the circuit before they can take their place in Parc Ferme. Saravia peels through the final turn, heads into the pit lane. And quite possible that others may also decide to take the checker flag in the pit lane, as the last couple of cars coming across the line to end the race. Thumbs up from Fran Rueda, waiting for Saravia to roll down towards Parc Ferme. Here he comes. celebrations about to get underway. Huge cheers from the Teo Martin Motorsport team. They've really executed the perfect race strategy for the afternoon. Saravia comes to halt. Here's a check of final results then. So Fran Rader, Andres Saravia taking victory from Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti, with Marco Ciocci and Mikel Mack completing the podium ahead of Lorenzo Beraldo Viega and Juan Cruz Alvarez, a fine fourth. Valentin Pierberg and Tom Onslow Cole taking Pro-Am class victory from Alex West and Michele Rugolo, Nicolai Costa and Kang Ling seventh, ahead of Miguel Ramos, Fabrizio Cristani, who complete the Pro-Am podium. Alexander Haraquina and Martin Conrad completing the AM rostrum. Julio Lengi, Andre Lewandowski, with Thiago Marquez, Marcio Basso rounding out the AM rostrum. Giovanni Venturini our only casualty. So in terms of what that does to the Drivers' Championship, Mikel Mack leads the way from Higuaín, who's not here. Then Venturini and Mol just hold on to third in the standings, with Rader and Saravia just a point back, and Fioravanti and Fernando Reis also very much in the mix, as are Kang Ling and Nicolai Costa, who have been nothing if not consistent. Smiles and celebration all around then in Parc Ferme. Thumbs up for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Saravia enjoying the congratulations. Why not? Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti, solid second place, and they're starting to rack up the points. Weston Rugolo talking through the second half of the race. Onslow Cole and Valentin Pierberg eventually pipping them for Pro-Am class victory. Mikel Mack congratulating his rivals with good reason, because third place continues Mack's run of podiums since the start of the season and continues to build his lead in the championship. We didn't see masses of Tom Onslow Cole, but it was a charging drive through to claim Pro-Am victory alongside Valentin Pierberg. It was a good drive though from Pierberg in the first half of the race, staying with that group.
Fran Rader, Andres Saravia, first win of the year for the BMW team, Teo Martin. Beautiful race, a great start.
Yeah, the start was mega. I mean, I know I had to overtake cars because quali didn't go as planned. So I know at the beginning I had to push as maximum to try to get to a podium position. But yeah, well, it was a bit over expectations. I did a mega start. I arrived P2 there and after the first corner, and then I got a great line in the fast corner, and I could pass Rugolo. So, and then it was all just maintaining my pace and well, holding the Ferrari back in the end, which was a bit hard, but I'm very happy, very happy. We did a mega job.
Andres, the end was slow because of the rain. How difficult it was?
It would have been impossible with the slicks at the end. We were very lucky that safety car came out, because we probably would have to box even if it was 2 laps to the end. It was impossible. It was very slippery. Like 5 or 6 laps before it started raining sector 1, but it wasn't that bad. But at the end it was really bad. The fast corner in the back, turn number 10, was you don't want to be in 5th gear 220 Ks with it being a little bit wet on slicks.
Well done guys, and your season really starts today, huh? Podium now. Well done.
So from pole position, it was a fantastic start from Michele Rugolo, but behind Fran Rader, who was able to ease into second place as they worked their way through the opening chicane. Behind, thick of the action, a little bit of contact further down the order, a bit more contact further up the order. Andrea Monterni tagged Rick Breukers and rotated the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini. Marcello Hahn was also in amongst the thick of the action as well. contact with Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Meanwhile, David Perel was putting in the storming drive, moving clear of Damiano Fioravanti in the early stages. Chalahan busy defending as the race unfolded. But more contact as Nicolas Costa was darting to the inside of the Drivex Mercedes. Meanwhile, Giovanni Vettori in the second half of the race looking to move clear of Jiatong Liang and carve up through the order. This was the move from Fernando Reis and Alex West to move into second position as Andres Saravia was leading the way, but then the rain came down. The safety car came out at just the right moment and it gave a victory to Andres Saravia and Fran Rueda for Teo Martin Motorsport. Second place to Ombra Racing, Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti, with championship leader Luzik Racing's Mikael Mack finishing in third alongside Marco Ciocci to continue to build his advantage at the top of the standings. Tom Onslow Cole, Valentin Pierberg claimed Pro-Am honours in the AM class to Martin Conrad and Alexander Rakwina. So a race full of twists and turns and plenty of drama. But now the opportunity for the drivers to celebrate on the podium. And despite the challenges thrown at them, Fran Rueda and Andres Saravia doing a superb job to claim victory. So third place to Mikael Mack and Marco Ciocci. Thumbs up from them, and thanks to the Luzik Racing team. Runners-up, Fernando Reis and Damiano Fioravanti. Very well judged race from the Ombra Racing pair. Always staying up in contention, and victory to Andres Saravia and Fran Rueda and Teo Martin Motorsport. So lots to celebrate on the podium. The Spanish National Anthem to salute Fran Rueda, Andres Saravia, Teo Martin Motorsport victorious in the third race of the International GTOpen season. Of course, the weekend continues here in Paul Ricard. We will be back tomorrow just after 2 o'clock Central European time for the second race of the weekend. You'll be able to join us for qualifying as well tomorrow morning at 9:40 Central European time. I'm sure we'll have another day of drama to look forward to, but for now, on the top step of the podium in Paul Ricard, it's jubilation for Teo Martin Motorsport. As Christophe Baquier, 3-star Michelin chef, does the honours with the trophies and then makes good his escape before celebrations with the champagne are unleashed. 6 very happy drivers, thoroughly entertaining race, and we will look forward to more of that tomorrow. In the meantime, from Paul Ricard, it's time to say goodbye. So on to the Pro-Am podium with third place to Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crostani. And the Dyko Lazarus pairing steadily racking up the points and podiums from the opening race of the season. The same to Alex West and Michele Rugolo. Onto the top step of the rostrum as the rain starting to come down again. With our Pro-Am class winners, Valentin Pierberg and Tom Onslow-Cole, celebrating on the top step of the podium for SPS Automotive. So the Dyko Lazarus pairing of Amazon Crestani receiving their trophies. Same for Luzic Racing's West and Rugolo. Christophe Basquiat doing the honours with the winners' trophies to Pierberg and Onslow-Cole. Again, the Pro-Am Championship battle is going to be absolutely fascinating as the season unfolds. Onslow-Cole and Pierberg very, very quick as a combination, but I wouldn't discount Rugolo and West racking up the victories. The same for Ramos and Crestani. Plenty of others who didn't make it to the podium as well either. So another successful day for the Luzic Racing squad. Both of their cars onto their respective podiums as we now turn our attention to the AM class podium again. Very close battles in the AM class throughout the course of the afternoon. Giulio Borlenghi and Andrei Lewandowski. With much to celebrate third place for the Vincenzo Suspiria Racing pairing. Tiago Marquez and Marcio Basso second for Teo Martin Motorsport. So again, a good day for Teo Martin Motorsport with two of their three cars into their respective podiums. And then AM class winners Martin Conrad and Alexander Raquina in the HTP Motorsport MS Racing Mercedes up to celebrate on the top step of the podium. They took the AM class pole. I think Martin Conrad rather enjoyed that. Driver celebrating victory despite the rain absolutely pummeling down. They'll be hoping that the conditions clear for tomorrow. But in the meantime, it's been a superb afternoon of racing here in Paul Ricard for the International GT Open. We'll look forward to more of the same tomorrow when we go racing at 2:15 Central European time. We're qualifying at 9:40 Central European time. Until then, as the champagne flies on the rostrum, it's goodbye from France.